Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jess Brownlow. I'm editor of Aviation News at Terrapin UK. Firstly, I just want to thank you all for joining today. We have a really exciting group of panellists discussing some fantastic topics, and it's set to be a really great afternoon. So today's session, Architecting the Future of AI Field Offer and Order Management, is looking at using our AI to deliver commercial outcomes and accelerate growth and much more. As always, we really want to hear from you through today's session, so please do send in your questions and we'll get through as many as we can at the end with these panellists. I only ask that if you do send in a question, please could you include your name and your company name alongside it, and we'll get through these at the end. Please also be aware that today's session is recorded and I'll explain at the end how to access this. That's everything from me, so all that's left is for me to introduce you to your wonderful moderator for today, Katerina Silva.
Thanks, Jess. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to have this amazing discussion of today. Almost everywhere we look around, discussions about offer and order management are in place. It's by dynamic offers, one order. It doesn't matter actually the concept. This is the word of the day. Everyone is looking how the future of the roadmap for retailing transformation looks like for the airlines and their technology partners. Today, our goal is to walk you through what is happening in the industry and at the same time show you how the PROS customers and PROS itself is building the future of a modern airline retailing, using a robust, open and modular platform in order to enable commercial autonomy. I'm very well accompanied today with my esteemed colleagues from PROS and Evermundo, which I will ask if they can introduce themselves. Maybe Jason, can we start with you?
Sure thing. Hi, my name is Jason Glenn. I'm the Director of Sales at Evermundo. I've been around for 7 years in this role, and yeah, I'm happy to be working with the geniuses who are joining me from the PROS team. I'm just the sales guy, so they're the brains behind the operation.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, Bipin Majavadia. I look after PROS sales activities in the EMEA region and have been here for just over 4 years. Looking forward to a great conversation today. Over to you, Justin.
Yeah, and good morning and afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Jander. I've been at PROS for just about 13 years now, all in the product management organization, currently leading the product management team for our revenue management solutions, RTDP, our ancillary science capabilities, as well as our group solutions. So in my role, I'm responsible for ensuring that we're listening to the market, hearing what we need to understand, what we need to do in the products, and innovating in the products to continue to make sure that we're hitting the key capabilities that we need to in the market to address the things that the airlines have big aspirations to solve.
And hi everyone, I'm Chris Allison. I joined PROS last year to lead the offer and order management platform strategy here. And I've been working for the last 8 or so years across the industry and with IATA to drive some of the offer and order management standards that, well, we'll need to leverage and the industry needs to use to make this a success. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good conversation today.
Thanks everyone for presenting yourselves. I just want to give a quick reminder to everyone that this is supposed to be a session for you, so please make sure that you send our the questions you have so we can answer at the end. Okay, so let's start it. But before we deep dive in the offer and order management part, let's talk a little bit about commercial autonomy. What is it? Why is it so critical for the airlines that are trying to transform from this traditional distribution model? Maybe Bipin, your thoughts about it?
Sure, thanks, Kat. So I think, yeah, let's begin by just kind of level setting on what do we mean by commercial autonomy. And I guess, you know, in essence, it's the shift in mindset for airlines to steer their own retail strategy outside of technology limitations. Now, so what does this mean? I guess from a, you know, when you look at it, commercial autonomy in essence becomes a prerequisite for airlines that want to become more customer-centric. So when we look at how this kind of evolves into what airlines are doing today, the legacy technologies that exist today in the order systems really don't help airlines, drive their retailing capabilities to the next level. And so this is what we mean by commercial autonomy. The conversation really needs to change. It needs to change to how new technologies can help airlines better, how they can help them with products, services, and experiences for their travelers. So if we vision airlines going along this path of commercial autonomy, effectively they'll be transforming the way that they create their offers, more away from what's static today in that sort of static portfolio to more akin to a dynamic content and price offering construction method. So how does this help airlines? Well, it kind of gives them that agnostic offer and order structure, and it helps them enable the flexibility and freedom that airlines deserve to allow them to adapt to that ever-changing market and customer demand. So by presenting the right offers, it will increase the likelihood to purchase, which should be a win-win for both the airline and the customers. So, I mean, in summary, we think that a true offer and order agnostic world will definitely help airlines break out of those legacy constraints. And in turn, it will unlock those opportunities and improve that customer experience that we know airlines are striving for.
Thank you, Bipin. It actually looks must-have for the airlines to achieve the commercial autonomy that we go in the path of offer and orders. But everyone knows where to go, right? We've been talking about what is the destination, and what about how to go there, where to start? Justin, you've been talking with so many customers about it. Do you want to share with us what they are saying to you about where to start, how to start? Help us on that.
Yeah, and it's such a good point, because I think that we all know where the destination is, and you said it, Kat. We really know where we want to get to. The question is more about how to get there, and airlines are in all different parts of that journey. And I think that that's really the challenging part. Is an airline can sit and talk to another airline and hear, what are you working on? What are you working on? And they're all just like at very different stages of what they want to work on and where they want to get to. And I think the key is really to start at the basics. And I'm biased. I've been around the revenue management organization for a long time. I'm never shy about admitting that. But I really think it begins with revenue management. I think that that's going to be the core of the capabilities that you need to start with the offer and order management capabilities that we're talking about. Revenue management has long had a history in the sciences and artificial intelligence, et cetera. So it's really a great place to start as we continue to expand the capabilities beyond just traditional revenue management and start looking into what we consider to be true offer optimization. And I think that that's where we really need to focus on. And there's some key things that airlines can do to start. The first, it sounds relatively basic, and many airlines are doing it today, but bid price control is one of the first things. And I won't get into the specifics of what bid prices are today. If you know, right? But the key component of bid price control is really about understanding the capacity constraints on a particular flight. And really that concept of bid prices is already class free, which is a big factor in where we want to go, removing the dependencies of RBDs. So starting with bid prices is a key component. So if you're not there, moving to a bid price system and ensuring that you're using those effectively. Even if you are on bid prices, it's important to make sure that you're using them and understanding what they can do for you. So I think that's a starting point. And then the next component really gets into willingness to pay. So when I talk about willingness to pay, it's about understanding the relationship between price and demand. And again, removing that barrier of class codes and thinking about what is the demand for a given product at a particular price point, and starting to think about that independent of the RBDs that are out there. As we do that, that then sets the stage for dynamic pricing. And that's really the first step in offer optimization, is truly being able to offer a price independent of class codes. And so that capability is really important, because today, a typical airline can really only offer a handful of price points for a particular product. Breaking free of that opens up revenue opportunity that wasn't already there. And so really that's a key component to taking that next step into really focusing on the offers. As I like to joke, no other industry really said you only get this number of fixed price points and you can't offer any other price other than that. But we're set with that today, and breaking free of that is a key component for us. And then really the next thing that really comes into play is the idea of being more contextual in the offers that we're making. And so revenue management today has long been doing that with the idea of segmentation, but the segmentation was focused on, you know, origin and destination. Point of sale was a big component when we introduced point of sale control in revenue management. That was a big component of segmentation, being able to offer different availability based off of where you're buying your ticket. That was huge when that was introduced. That idea is what we want to continue to expand on into the more context specific things. So the one I use a lot as an example is how many passengers are in your record. When I was first, asked to explain what revenue management was, the key was distinguishing between business travelers and leisure travelers. That was the fundamental thing. And one of those, the components of that is what we're talking about today with really context-driven offer optimization. That means understanding things about the passenger in the context of their request, of their request for an offer, understanding who they are, and then making a response that's contextual on that. And that's the other component of offer, of course, why we've switched from, you know, pricing of a seat and revenue management of the seat to the term offer optimization, is because we are looking at that total offer, which includes the ancillary component. So now it's not just about pricing the right to get on the airplane, but also all of the other components that can come with that. And so all of that is really the starting point. And I laid out a few things there that can start getting you there, that set you on that path to the concept of offer optimization, offer creation, and ultimately offer and order management.
We are stepping away a little bit of this concept of, as you mentioned, just leisure and business, and getting way more context. And there is a big part of this that AI brought into this, how you manage all of this optimization for all of these products. And again, you mentioned very well that products no longer just looking at the seat in the plane and looking at the broader scope. So tell us this technology, and you mentioned some of them, like for example, had the control of your bid price and also create more dynamicity. What is there already today in the technology, that side, that AI has been changing? How AI has been changing this side of the offer optimization?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that obviously AI is something that's just taken off in the last year or so. We've seen just an explosion in the use of the term, and there's a lot of ambiguity about what AI really means as well. And that's why when I started, I mentioned that PROS has been using science to do our capabilities, and in particular, not just PROS, but revenue management was the foundational use case of science and data science in the industry, all the way back to when, you know, the mid 80s, whenever things really started taking off. And so this idea of leveraging AI isn't a new concept in its idea. It's actually just applying different methodologies that are better and more efficient than what we had before. So I think that that's an important distinction, because it's not that we're, you know, going down a path that we've never been on before, but instead looking at what's coming out now and being able to leverage that technology, leverage the AI that's coming out now to better help us solve the problems. The core components are still the same. Forecasting and optimization, those are still fundamental to, you know, solving whether it's the revenue management problem or the offer optimization problem. That's fundamental. But how we do that forecasting, what data we use to do that forecasting, is where the next evolution of it is going to come. And so that can be in terms of third-party data. So when I talked before about willingness to pay, what factors are driving a passenger's willingness to pay? That can be very, you know, tangible things like how many passengers are in the record. That's going to decide what your willingness to pay is. It can also be things like, what is my competitor charging right now? And that's going to drive my passenger's willingness to pay. So all that those are things that drive the willingness to pay. But what we want to do is take it a step deeper and say, what are the actual components of the request? So what are the details of the request, and be able to say, I know it's a particular passenger. Now, this is a key component too. I think this scares people sometimes. We get into the difference between personalization, segmentation, individualization, a lot of different words used for that. Nobody's really ready to go and say it's Bippin versus Chris, so I'm going to give them different prices. That gets a little scary for airlines who've been in the business of making sure that no illegal activity is happening, of course, and nobody's quite ready for that. But what we are really focused on is that segmentation. And the segmentation piece just says understanding a particular segment of the market and understanding what their willingness to pay is at the time of the request. And so what we've done at PROS is create a model that helps identify what type of passenger they are. So putting them into groups, into segments that they fit into, such as like business and leisure, that's the high level, but it gets more detailed than that. What type of passenger are they? When are they buying? Those kind of critical details beyond just the standard O&D point of sale, time of day level forecasting and optimization. And once we have those, then we're able to do a more efficient price calculation paired with the bid price calculation that we had. And then the second piece that I'll talk about is the idea of our dynamic pricing of ancillaries. And this is where we're actually saying now, instead of just having fixed prices of ancillaries, now we can do that same kind of segmentation, but change the price for the passenger based off of the segment that they're in. So that's a critical component for us. And it really sets us up for the idea of a full offer component for it.
Well, thank you, Jason. No, I think if I hear it well, what you are saying, basically, in a very simple words, for a very complex subject, what you are saying is offer optimization at its core is actually helping the airlines to move from a static portfolio to a dynamic portfolio. But again, coming to a dynamic portfolio, it means then airlines need to take control of what is being offering to their customers, right? So how the airlines can do that? How can we get the control, and how can they distribute it with that control? Maybe I will give the word to Chris. That looks like he has the answer for this one. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's a good question. And yeah, it's great using science and AI to create optimized offers. But without the ability to distribute them, yeah, it's a bit useless. So yeah, clearly distribution and control is important. Obviously, there's a transformation needed in terms of the fulfillment piece, and we can loop back to that later. But airlines also, yeah, need to fully control their distribution channels, to fully reap the benefits of the AI-fueled offer management. It includes the direct channel, obviously, like the airline website, but also the indirect channel by implementing, for instance, NDC. And yeah, I guess we don't have time today to go into the nuances of NDC, but ultimately, yeah, when you have the control of your channels, it's then about being able to manage the traffic, optimize the channel mix in a smart and scalable way, and ultimately feeding the AI with all of this extra shopping and order data hitting the ecosystem to ultimately, yeah, further optimize those offers being distributed.
Thank you, Chris. Now I think I'm going to put Jason on the spot here, because I was thinking, sorry, Jason, I was thinking that, okay, we have the offer optimization, we talk about how to distribute it and gain control, and I was wondering what that means for the marketing and commercial teams, the strategies, how this change and evolve with all of this new dynamicity that is being included in how they're offering.
Yeah, right. So we always like to say that, you know, the offer optimization is as good as the customers that can see it, or the potential customers that can see it, right? So the sales and marketing teams obviously are the mouthpiece of the RM team. Sorry, Justin. Justin's the mouthpiece of all RM, but the sales and marketing team at the airlines tend to be the mouthpiece for all of that, right? So while what Chris said is still important, I think the airlines, you know, they're never going to get away technically from a I guess like a legacy distribution model. Of course, everybody is cost sensitive, more so now, obviously post pandemic. So the direct channel becomes incredibly important, right? And so if we want to really control the offers, right? Well, beginning with controlling the order, I guess, right? The first thing is to acquire the customer, deliver the offer, and then fulfill the order for that customer, right? And so in the direct channel, you're able to do that. You're able to then collect the data to then better optimize future offers, right? So then now we're getting into kind of the AI world, right? And that's where we live, Everymundo. We're the front end of the back end of the science from PROS, right? The beautiful AI, you know, that's driving that offer optimization from PROS is then making its way into our front end on the airline's website to then contextualize the offers in a number of different ways to then drive the fulfillment. One of the exciting things, muted myself. One of the exciting things in our world, in the Everymundo world, the front end world, where AI is having an impact already, is using AI to generate and evolve the actual front end user experience for customers, right? So, one example is we're in the process of building a generative chatbot for one of our customers right now. So, that's an interesting leap forward from kind of the call and response machine learning, let's call it, of the past. But also in terms of the components that are showcasing the offer to the customers on the airline's website, we're also applying AI to those components to then continually evolve themselves, right? Based on the experiences that are flowing through those components, we are then optimizing the front end using AI, right? Because now we have all the sample data to then do that on the fly, right? And then the last thing I'll say also is, I guess the important part of all of this is, the way that the kind of architecture is built to allow this to happen, right? At Evermundo, we built something called the registry. I mean, it could be named a number of different things, but it's basically a very structured environment that allows for partners to build components. In this case, also it allows robots, I guess, for lack of a better term, to build and evolve components, right? So that was the first step that we took a couple of years ago, right? But now, it's all kind of like in the service of AI-driven future growth and evolution of all of our products, to, of course, get back to the original point, which is to optimize acquisition of customers to the airline's website, give those customers the best optimized offer, right? By giving them also the best optimized user experience, to then pass that customer on to the booking flow, right? To eventually fulfill that order, right? And then create that virtuous cycle, right? And so I don't know if that was a good segue to the fulfillment. That's what I was going for.
I was actually going to say to you, yes.
I just wanted to add, Jason mentioned something about the data and that's being collected on the direct channel. I think that's a really important thing that I talked about other data sources, and third-party data is used a lot. And in this case, by the partnership between PROS and Evermundo, it's not really third-party data, it's first-party data, right? And that's actually one of the benefits, is that we're able to look at the information they're collecting about looks and books, so we can start seeing when people are starting to hit the direct channel. That information can be immediately fed back into the RM system, and that's something that we're doing today, where we're adjusting the demand forecast based off of the data that's coming in. So we call that shopping data or look data, whatever you want to call it. That data is really critical, telling you about demand trends that haven't started materializing as bookings yet, but maybe a signal towards what's to come. And that can give you an indicator of what's to come, giving you a chance to react before the bookings have actually started. So giving you a chance to change prices potentially, or change the bid prices potentially before demand has actually shown up.
Well, absolutely. I think, from both of you, we can conclude that data is important, not only for you to build the offer and optimize it, but also how you expose it and to use it, two ways, right? So we use to expose, to help, and then we collect the data from how the demand behaves, so we can better optimize the offer. It's a cycle. And Jason mentioned we need to fulfill it. And I was wondering, okay, what is the next step? So now I have the offer, now I have the retailing of my offer. So now what is the obvious next step that is coming in, which is in the airline chain, which is of course the order part. And today we just mentioned there is these constraints on this traditional ordering part that we have. So how do we break out? What is the secret? And Chris is smiling, so I think I think he's ready to go.
Yeah, and of course this is the easy piece. So yeah, thanks for saving this one for me. Yeah, but we believe the future is based on platform technology that's modular, cloud-based, open. Yeah, ultimately order native. Clearly the clue's in the name, but product agnostic. But actually there isn't one set path to break away. Each airline has their own commercial commitments, technical limitations, operational objectives and challenges. So to take a big bang approach and move away from a legacy environment to full order management, it's not only difficult and risky, it ends up being such a big investment and it'll take a long time to realize a return with such an approach. A more realistic approach is to identify specific areas of value, again, taking into account these challenges and objectives, whether they be commercial, technical, operational, anything else. Ultimately, identify areas where we can find value in the short term, prove use cases, migrate individual systems, modules, or components, but in a transitional way rather than in a big bang. And ultimately, I mentioned that open and modular platform, and of course that's what's going to make that a possibility and a reality, being able to integrate with the existing systems and ultimately manage that transition smoothly. And actually the discussion goes even beyond transition. Once you transition, it's one thing, how do airlines, how do you avoid deploying again just another legacy monolith of the future in 5 or 10 years time, finding ourselves in the same position? But actually the answer is the same one that I've given that aids transition. It's with the openness, the modularity. This mitigates the risk of having to plot another complex transition in future by being already able to control things at the component level and do these integrations, but continue that path as we go forward.
Chris, I'm thinking, so we've mentioned open and modular quite a few times there, right? So, and I think it's worth just touching on some of those key module components, that would build up the offer and order management world. How do we see it? You want to just kind of give a quick heads up on where offer sits, where order sits, how it links with some of the downstream systems, and one of the key components, where we have inventory data and how we treat that in the offer and order world.
Yeah, of course, for sure. I mean, ultimately it's about being able to deploy the right level of granularity and the right level of sophistication when it comes to the offer creation. So Justin already mentioned a few paths towards that. So I won't kind of repeat that from the offer management side. But from the order piece, initially it's about being able to, for example, bring in the order piece and start to build up the order repository as a system of record. Maybe not deploying that as the only system of record on day one, because of course, that's a very important operational piece and very important from a financial perspective as well. Obviously, passengers need to be able to get on planes, and airline accounting needs to continue. And obviously, again, doing that in a big bang might not make sense, but being able to already migrate data into the order management system and into an order repository to be able to take data away from the traditional systems such as the PSS, the e-ticket server, the PNR database, being able to have an understanding of that data and leverage that data, like we said, like around the ecosystem, driving or feeding the AI to improve the optimization decisions. That's already another step and another way of planning that migration. But then, when that is there, sitting there as a robust component, being able to fully migrate away from, for example, the PNR or the e-ticket database in time. But like you said, it's also about being able to integrate with the legacy ecosystem, because the downstream providers and processes aren't necessarily going to migrate at the same speed. So being able to leverage full offer and order management on the one hand, but being able to speak legacy in a componentized and modular way with the rest of the ecosystem, being able to translate to legacy standards where needed, but is also important. And one by one, being able to take away some of these functions from the legacy systems and bringing them in towards order management. That's all about being able to do this in this transitional and modular way. That's what we believe in, and ultimately a platform approach and being able to deploy these components over time when the value is there onto a platform, rather than having to migrate the entire ecosystem at once. That's ultimately how we're all going to succeed in this journey.
Well, thank you. I wanted to say this is a very intelligent way of putting how to transition from the legacy to the order world. But I would like to ask you to explore a little bit the A part of your I. So we talk about intelligence. What about the artificial part of it? Because we talk about AI on offer. What about AI on order?
Yeah, for sure. And this is going to be equally as important on the order management side. And a couple of simple examples, like obviously I'm sure these come to mind for most based on what we've been talking about. They include, for example, obviously servicing the order and generating optimized offers during the reshopping phase. but actually it goes beyond that, and for example extends to smarter handling of disruption cases and smarter reaccommodation solutions, better network optimization by using the more granular data and more real-time data available thanks to the order management approach. But beyond just the pure optimization of offers, it also we're looking at making sure that AI can help us optimize also the way we interact with our customers from a workflow and process perspective, based on success factors and what we learn from other customer interactions. It's about, for example, being able to not only reactively optimize offers, but also provide smart suggestions and notifications, whether it be just information such as, I don't know, hey, the right time to inform a customer that their gate is ready, that they're most likely to read and use that information based on all of the information that we have and learning from that. And then also being able to proactively push offers and campaigns at the right time in the life cycle of a customer's order, based on, again, what we know about them and what we know about the status of the order and where that order is in its life cycle. And ultimately, all of that is around being able to leverage the consumption and accounting data in real time and at a granular level, at a service by service level and product by product level within the order. Feeding the AI and science models with more accurate and timely data. Ultimately making better decisions in the offer phase and, like I said, throughout that life cycle.
It's ultimately to kind of extend the revenue management to actually a profitability management, because then you can combine what happened on the demand with what was actually converted with what was the cost of that conversion, right? So at the end, it's a profitability kind of way. It sounds like AI is like amazing. I was wondering if we were going to be invaded by robots, but no, because Jason was talking about a robot even can come and a code. But it sounds like AI actually is bringing that push that we need in order to actually create a world, a more free world for the airlines to be able to apply their commercial strategies. I still have a question though on the order side. You mentioned that we need to be careful to not go to the legacy, and that there is challenge associated to this move, and going to order and offer, of course, in this new environment can bring some challenge. Do you want to? I think this is an open question for all of you. What is the challenges you foresee, and do you have any suggestions to overcome these challenges?
Let me just start, because I think we've, as a group, we've kind of said a lot of things, and I just want to try and sort of see if I can level set so that our audience understood what some of the things are saying. So I think one of the things that we've said through our discussions here about what offer and order management means for pros and how we're going to fuel it with AI and everything is, in essence, that in a future world of offer and order would mean that there's no need for a PSS. I think we've been talking along those lines. But obviously, we know that getting to that is going to be a transition in its own right, and I think that's what your question leads on to in terms of what are some of the complexities and how we deal with that. How do we make sure that an airline's heartbeat, which is like their revenue management and their ordering system, doesn't suffer and they don't have issues through that process. So I'll let the product experts kind of answer that. But I wanted to just level set to make sure when we talk about offer and order, we do talk about moving into a true retailing architecture. Of the likes of, some of these online retailers and stuff where the experience is dead simple, the outcomes are driving, superb user experience for the airlines travelers, and ultimately it should be an easy transaction. And then all of the downstream processes and how we deal with both legacy and current and new order systems are kind of managed by that translation layer and everything that our product would enable. But I'll let Chris touch on some of the complexities we have to work through to get there with the airlines.
Yeah, the complexity for sure. But I mean, I just want to kind of hit home what you've just been talking about, because I touched on that a moment ago, where it's about the way we interact with our customers can be improved because of the fact that we're not no longer going to be system and process driven, but we can be customer centric in terms of the processes, be more flexible in the way that we can interact with the customers. But we need to also be able to scale that to all of the different types of customers that we want to interact with, right? So that's where leveraging AI to be able to understand the best way to interact with those customers, the right workflow to send a certain customer through, whether it be the shopping flow, whether it be something about changing the order and servicing, whether it be a check-in process or something. It doesn't always have to be one size fits all because the system says that's the way we need to do it. That's what one of the things order management is going to free us from, and that AI is going to help us learn the best interactions for those customers. Ultimately, yes, it's because we want loyal customers who are going to spend a lot of money with us, but of course, at the same time, customer experience is improved. Everyone wins. So that's super important. And there's another piece I wanted to touch on as well, which was around the fact that this shift to offer and order management, moving away from our traditional systems, also expands kind of the range of products that are going to be available for airlines and other travel vendors to be able to sell. So and to be able to include in offers and be able to fulfill from the order side. But obviously, as the complexity of the range of products increases, so too, and I see Justin nodding, so I'm sure he's got some thoughts on this as well. But basically, as the complexity increases, it gets harder and harder for individuals to be able to understand the best point at which to offer these things, the best bundles of offers to put together, and obviously ultimately be able to price them. So that's another big factor where leveraging science, leveraging AI is going to help that kind of ecosystem ultimately become scalable. So that's an important factor in all of this. It's not just about a difficult transition because we have to do it. There's actually a whole host of opportunities that come with this move. Expand the range of opportunities we have from a sales perspective.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously you guys have hit on great points. I think, we're talking about a half century of technology that we're attempting to revamp, right? And so, I mean, a half century of technology doesn't go away overnight. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that airlines are going to face is IT side things, like trying to deal with those pieces. And so that's just getting it through. I think the key thing though is focusing on why we want to do it. It's not just replacing technology because it's old. That in and of itself is not a reason to do it. As airlines, you all know, many of you are operating 25, 30-year-old airplanes, and when you walk on board, you have no idea. So technology itself is not the reason to update. Technology being old is not the reason to update. The reason to update is giving more control and having more capabilities than we have today. And so from the from the offer piece, it's really about being able to offer more than what we're able to do today. Now that in and of itself creates more complexity. As Chris just said, you have more things to offer a passenger, more capabilities to offer them. And I think that's where when we talk about the end goal, it sounds really good to get there to be able to offer, I'm a retailer now, I'm not an airline. I'll sell you anything that's associated with the travel experience. It sounds really good, but now you've got to be a whole lot more involved in what all those different components are. And now you have more things to sell to your passenger. I used an example just last week of if you're suddenly selling sunglasses on your website, and in addition to the seat, and you offer a bundle of seat plus sunglasses, and that price is too high for the passenger, you may actually turn them away and they don't buy your seat. Whereas if you just offered them the seat, they would have purchased it. And you're an airline, so ultimately selling them sunglasses isn't the thing that's most important. The thing is getting them into the seat. And so I think that's where the nuance that Chris is talking about is coming from, is that we need to be a retailer, right? We want to be able to sell anything, but still focusing on your part of the business. And I think that's the nuance, that's the thing that we have to make sure we get over. And then one other piece I'll just add from a hurdle perspective is we've really, in that half century of technology, we've really focused on getting it right. We know what we do today in order to get that right answer. We have analysts that sit in the revenue management department, the pricing department, that work with the PSSs, all of these different people at the airline that are focused on this to get to that right answer. And now we're talking about using more AI, using more technology to help solve these problems. And ultimately that means taking some of the burden off of those people who are doing that work so that they can focus on more strategic things. However, the challenge is showing that the science, the AI, is capable of taking that on and still giving the right visibility into the models and right visibility into the solution so that analysts can adopt the solution and trust it effectively. And that's a big hurdle. I think that's something that it's not forgotten in this whole process, and it's really important in the AI game that you don't just ignore the analyst. You're not replacing the analyst. You're actually enabling them to do more efficient and more strategic things with their job.
Yeah, you touched on explainable AI a little bit there, didn't you, Justin? I think that's really critical to, especially everything we're doing with our models.
I will let you, Bipin, I'm sorry, I will let you go in it, but I have to tell you that our audience is on fever, and you have many questions. So let's go. Tell me, what do you? Jason is saying, bring them in. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm sure that we will have the opportunity to have that discussion. I just wanted, before to jump to the questions, one last word of you, and it needs to be very quick, on how do you think that the airlines, vendors, IT partners, all their partners can work together, and where they can work together to start building this future-proof retailing world that we are talking about? In a very few words. And maybe Bipin, as I catch you, I have the right to go first.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you. Okay, so in a nutshell, I think I think if any vendor says that they can fix the entire ecosystem and make it absolutely 100% correct for the airline, I think that's a little bit questionable. So my view here is that vendors need to be open. They need to be open-minded to work with each other to make sure that there's the right architecture in place for the airlines, because every airline will need some sort of things that might be different. So I think it's going to be an interesting world, right? Vendors are going to have to work closely together. Airlines are going to have to be open to having this partner ecosystem out there. But I think that's the way we're going to make this work.
Thank you, Vipin. Okay, anyone else wants to say something about this before we go to the questions?
Yeah, well, normally I'm not a man of few words. It's normally many, but I'll try and summarize. And it's a proverb that I can't remember the source of, but yeah, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So yeah, openness and partnership is important.
Oh my God, this was a great sentence to finish the session. Now, okay, thank you, Chris. I will pass for the questions now. I think we have a lot of questions, so let's try to answer as much as we can. We have one first question that is about launching offer and order management system. So how airline alliances will be like in an RBD independent world? What is the mechanisms for settlement prices currently based on RBDs, and how these airlines protect their bid prices, so the optimum against the fixed, the settlement price? So we touch on this. I don't have the origin of this question, but maybe Justin, you were knocking, so you want to answer?
It's answered best by both Chris and I think, because it does touch on both components. Honestly, this is one of the biggest. This is a big hurdle. It's probably one of the things we hear most often, because as an airline, you can go completely RBD free. You can do all of this stuff, and then if your partners don't do all of this, then you have a challenge to overcome. And that's not to say that it doesn't, but what it really, I think, highlights is the need to live in both worlds. You have to live in the legacy world and in the new world together at the same time, and piecing those components together is critical to solving the problem. And the way you do that is by being able to map back to the legacy world into the new world. And Chris can talk a little more from a execution perspective on how some of that works, but I think it is one of the bigger challenges that we're going to face.
Yeah, and I guess we don't need too much more detail than that, but it's about being able to leverage the data about the individual segments or services that are going to make up an order with your partners, being able to manage that through its life cycle by knowing the status of each individual service at the right time through the life cycle of that order. Ultimately, helping with that individual order, and then ultimately helping improve the decisions that are made in future about how to package those things up together and offer them together as an itinerary or an offer together. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a second question that comes in. Thank you so much, both of you. It's come from Nigel Dowden, and the question is, it's not actually a question. He's very interested in knowing and learning whether we are using really granular data in creating our segmentation. So you mentioned, Justin, that we were using shopping data, and Nigel is questioning if you know, we use also PNR tickets, EMDs. Can you give us a few words on the granularity?
Yeah, and so obviously today in the kind of first world of determining high level, we'll call it average or aggregate willingness to pay, we're using the PNRs obviously to get that information, and that's your standard dimensionality of O&D, point of sale, the itineraries that the passenger is choosing, you know, those types of detail where we're calculating willingness to pay. The second level is far more granular. That's where we're talking about specific details of the request. So looking at what's actually coming in for the passenger. I used an example of number of packs in the record. That's kind of my standard example. That's the level of detail that we're getting to in granularity. So really it is getting to that level of granularity, but a key component is the model having the flexibility to not necessarily focus on the lowest level of granularity, so like airport to airport level at the O&D level, but say calculate willingness to pay at a region level, but using the number of packs at the most granular level, for example. So being able to forecast something like US to France, look at the willingness to pay, but when there's 4 packs in the record versus when there's 3 packs in the record, something like that.
Thank you so much, and I will invite Nigel to come and see us in our booth, so he can even get more granularity for this. Thank you so much, Justin. So about the architecture, there is another question that asks what the airlines need to have in place in order to transition from the legacy system to an actually offer and order. I wonder who wants to answer this question.
Yeah, let's throw up the architecture diagram. We'll walk through it. We've got enough time, right? No, I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's about having, yeah, that foundational RM and science at the base of everything being fed, yeah, by the right data sources. Then being able to, yeah, obviously handle that from an offer optimization perspective, and maybe, yeah, Justin, feel free to add any detail on that in a moment. But and then, yeah, being able to get that into the form of an offer ready for distribution. Ultimately, that makes up the offer management system, basically instantiating and the role of the offer management system being there to instantiate basically product availability and price, package that as an offer, and then get that ready for distribution. There needs to be a distribution layer to be able to get that to the outside world, talking about taking control of that offer again, whether it be the direct or the indirect channel. Yeah, ultimately that distribution layer is important. And then, yeah, finally, the order management piece, which contains, yeah, the database of all of the orders, that again, to become that system of record of the future, and then the individual components that support the creation of those orders and management of those orders throughout the life cycle, making sure that any time limits are adhered to, any rules around the orders are adhered to, whether it be how they can be created or how they can be changed in future, managing any of the fulfillment pieces with external vendors, whether it be other airline partners, whether it be third-party vendors of other products, and basically something to be able to make sure that what can happen to that order happens to that order correctly, whether it's an external or internal party. And then finally, I guess that that integration layer with that legacy world that we talked about, whether it be your existing PSS, whether that be with other external legacy vendors, the DCS, ground handlers, external airlines that haven't made that transition yet. Yeah, that integration layer is important to make sure that we can continue to operate in this yeah, wide ecosystem that's going to be at different levels of maturity for a long time. That's very much a nutshell, but yeah, that's that.
I think, Angelo, what Chris is saying in a few words is that these translators needs to be in place so it can help you to gradually move through the towards to the offer order. Chris has a huge architecture details that he can share in a again, if you come to our booth. I will pass the questions, and just being conscious of time, and I know everyone is trying to have their questions answered. So I will pass to the question number 4, that it comes from I'm sorry, from Andrea from the GmbH Aviation Consulting, and I think more for Justin, because it's related to something, Justin, you mentioned about integrating segments in our models. So Andre is wondering now, how do you ensure that new segments are being recognized while gaining more data? Well, the details of this data. So how that segments are recognized.
Yeah, that's actually a nuance of our approach, is not that we are necessarily generating the segments over here and then separately, determining the price for those segments over here. Instead, we're actually pairing those two things together. And so the segmentation is constantly being evaluated. I use the term segmentation because it's easy to understand, but the details of how the model works is a little more nuanced than that. And that it's not that, I create these segments and then jam somebody into that segment at the time of the request and say, you must, you get this price because you fit here. Instead, it's more dynamic than that the segmentation is really evaluated as the models continue to update. So it's not a fixed segmentation that would be typically used. And that way, when new changes happen to the market, the system's able to react to that. And now there's I believe the terms bleisure has been used lately. That could be a new segment that gets introduced, and the system's able to capture that.
Thank you very much. We have another question, and this one a challenge to us. So we mentioned at the beginning that everyone knows where to go. Here, our audience disagree, and the question is, what is the where? Being limited to optimize flights and ancillaries, but not all the other products an airline is selling. How about in-flight products based on the flight order? How about selling optimized other products non-flight, for example? So in reality, we said everyone knows where to go, but we are challenging here, saying not exactly like that.
I think that's fair. And I actually think that the funny part about it is that that's the piece that we talked about before, that like the end goal is as Chris said, it's, if you want to go far, it's better to get on this journey now with somebody that wants to get to that point. And that's because the end goal is probably pretty nebulous. This is this idea of being able to know exactly what the passenger is willing to pay for a full set of ancillary options that are available, plus the right to get on the airplane, understanding who they are, when they want to arrive, who's coming in addition to them, what are the constraints in place from a capacity perspective, all of those things, being able to create that offer, and now not only just creating the offer at the time you're buying, but also being able to send you things and say, buy at 30 days before departure, buy at 15 days before departure, all of the marketing components that Jason talked about, combining all of this stuff together into making sure that we get the right product. Now, the traditional revenue management was right price, right product, right time to the right passenger, right? Now we're talking about, when we talked about it before, it was just the right to get on the airplane. That's what traditional revenue management was. Now product means a whole lot of different things. It's the bundle of ancillaries, bundle of products together, and that makes it a lot harder. And that's just from the offer optimization piece. That's the end goal there. The order piece really follows that to be able to actually, why do this? Why make this big change? The order piece is to be able to actually execute on an offer that has a whole lot of things that you're not able to actually put in an offer in order today, and being able to service that offer effectively because you put sunglasses as part of the bundle that you had. Somebody's got to actually execute on that and send the sunglasses to the beach that you're going to, or that you're flying into. So those are the nuances of it. And that's that end goal, is that full travel experience and being able to execute on it. But there's a lot of things in between before you get to that final state. And this helps us set us up for that.
Listen, I will do one last question because of the time we have. I have to tell you that I'm very glad that we had so many questions. It means that we got the attention of our audience. The last one for you is from Thomas George, and the question is, what can AI do that you couldn't do with it than else? Finding the calculation patterns of competing airlines, understand the competitive calculation, and be 1 cent less expensive. But what does AI do that IT is not clear for me? So the question here is, why AI is so special, basically, what AI is bringing that before was not there.
Yeah, I think I'll go first because I think I talked about the AI component. The main thing I think is, again, AI is, there's a lot of talk around AI right now, and that's really good, because there's a lot of good things that can happen with it. But when we think about what it can do, it's a set of models, and it's a way of learning from the data that we have available to us, right? So that's a kind of a really simplified way of thinking about it. What AI can do for us, there were some examples given about, competitive fares. What's the effect on that? What we're thinking about is, today, we forecast demand, we forecast willingness to pay at that O&D point of sale, typical level, and then we hand that over to a pricer who sets, conditions on, number of days or advanced purchase rules. We set things like, Saturday night stays, round trip versus one-way fares. All of those different components are sort of rules based. When we talk about AI, what I really think of where the opportunity lies is being able to take on things that people are doing today with manual controls, and giving them the tools they need to take that on and do it and automate that capability. That can be things like rules. You can automate rules with AI, but also just taking out the rule component entirely and just actually just doing the thing that the analyst is saying. And that's really what that request specific pricing that I talked about before is doing. Is it's saying, well, you had nuances in the rules before that said round trip versus one-way fares. This request specific pricing can actually say the willingness to pay changes based off of one-way versus round trip, so give them a price. And the other thing I'll add too on the AI side is actually about analysts. So analysts are a key component. I talked about that before, but now analysts are tasked with trying to find where opportunities exist by just mining through the data. AI would be really good to go through and actually say, here are the things you should look at today, without having to just comb through billions of rows of data that come in. The AI is actually helping the analysts do their job more efficiently. So you hear a lot about getting rid of analysts, or you don't need analysts anymore. I actually think it's quite the opposite. I think it's actually making analysts more efficient, giving them the tools they need. So I think those are just a few examples. There's a lot of ways that AI can be used, though.
I know this is a topic close to your heart. I will have to catch you because I have to finish the session. But again, for everyone, Justin has tons. Justin, Jason, Bipin, and Chris will have tons to share with you. So feel free to come and visit us on the booth so you know more. I will thank you very much for all of you for this great discussion, and thank you for the audience to be so active and make so many questions. I think we tackle it, we touch. It's important to give the step, try something different, unlock new opportunities, use these AI capabilities in order to streamline the process and break out of legacy and get your commercial freedom. I pass over to Jess so she can give you the final notes. And once again, thank you so much, everyone. See you soon.
So really sadly, that's all we have time for today. I just want to say a huge thank you to Katerina, our moderator, the panelists, and you, the audience, for making it such a fantastic session and sending in those great questions. If you didn't quite catch the whole of the webinar, or you just want to go back and rewatch any sections, it has been recorded, and this will be available on our website and across various channels in the next few days. So please do keep an eye on your inbox for that. Finally, we'll be discussing all the topics spoken about today and more in person at this year's World Aviation Festival. This will be taking place in Lisbon from the 26th to the 28th of September. If you are interested in joining us, we'll be sending out a discount to all webinar attendees in the next 24 hours. I look forward to seeing many of you there at the PROS booth. Thank you again to our moderators, panelists, and you, the audience, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.